Ooh boy, looks like we got quite the topic today, and it looks like good old 4chan has come back. Now, if you're not entirely aware, 4chan was hacked not too long ago, and if you really don't know what 4chan is, in their own words, 4chan is a simple image-based bulletin board where anyone can post comments and share images. There are boards dedicated to a variety of topics from Japanese animation and culture to video games, music, and photography. Users do not need to register an account before participating in the community. Feel free to click on a board below that interests you and jump right in. And so, yeah, this board was kind of hacked. Now, there's been a string of stuff that I've seen coming from 4chan, okay? I've heard different trends coming from 4chan. I've heard people allegedly predicting COVID-19. So, it's basically like the Wild West out there. But of course, with every website, there must come moderation. So naturally, stuff that gets out of hand doesn't really last too long on this website. But about 12 days ago, so a while ago, or at least a while ago in internet terms, it was hacked, okay, by Sorry Jack Party. And if you actually go at the time that this happened, it actually says here QA returns Soy Jack Party 1 hashtag Hackwatch. So yeah. And if you really don't know what a soy jack is, if you've seen these caricatures on screen, yeah, that's what a soy jack is. So that's what the kids be doing these days with the whole soy jack stuff. So between you and me, it is what it is. But anyways, long story short, eventually later down the line, actually, if you take a look, at least actually it was like this yesterday, but I didn't take a photo of it yesterday. But if you take a look now, 4chan is up, as you can see in the first image. But beforehand, what ended up happening is that if you actually typed in 4chan.org, you would have this item here, see you soon. Now, the fact that this Twitter user has furry porn and anime porn is tripping me up. But anyways, that's what you used to see when you used to be on 4chan. So that's essentially what would happen then. And then, of course, now that we're done with all that, if we look at what Soy Jack Party is about, even they're also an image board, so like a rival image board, you could probably say, and they're dedicated to creation, posting, and sharing of soy jacks. As the website has grown, it has expanded to encompass many other topics as well. So I guess you could say into the soy jack verse, if you may. Oh man! But regardless of all that, what I want to take a look at actually is kind of looking at everything as a whole, because at the time this happened, okay, there was like a slew of information coming out, like over here. It's like, oh, this happened here, this happened here. Now that everything's kind of died down, well, it has been a little bit difficult to get information, even for me. I actually want to go through some of the posts on this image board or whatever, and see exactly, what could have went wrong, at least with, 4chan. And once you actually take a look into it, you will realize that a lot of it could have been very preventable. But alas, let's get started. So, this all begins on April 14th, or April 15th for some regions. And it says here, tonight has been a very special night for many of us at the Soy Jack Party. Today, April 14th, 2025, a hacker who has been in 4Cuck's system for over a year executed the true operation Soy Clips, reopening QA, exposing personal information of various 4Cuck stuff, and linking code from the site. In an attempt to control the damage, 4Cuck admins have taken all servers offline, but there are unconfirmed reports that the servers have been completely compromised and may not be up for some time. Spoiler alert, it was down for a while. And there has been a flood of refugees from 4Cuck onto the Shardy, most of whom are not adjusting well to the culture. For new teens of the old gods that remain, and everyone in between, tonight has been a cathartic one. So you can tell here that this image board was having a good time. And actually, if you take a look after looking into it a bit more, you can actually take a look at these PHP files. Now, you don't know what PHP is, it's just a coding system, okay? However, a key aspect about this particular system is that what ended up happening is PHP, at least in this case, was not updated for a while. So essentially, imagine you have a key from the 1600s. You have a lock from the 1600s, but you're using it to lock your door in the 21st century. It's not going to work. Someone's going to break in eventually, and probably break in pretty easily. And on top of all that, you could actually see here, whoever got into the system, they had access to, I kid you not, basically everything that the site had to offer. So if you take a look at this image here, you have stuff like ban users, ban request stats, ban templates, blacklist, blotter messages, board list, contest banners. And the biggest one we have here is email sign-ins. What? Yes, an email sign-in. I kid you not. Of course, naturally, as you can see here, you see like SQL and structures and all that stuff. This isn't a coding class, but I'll just give you a very brief explanation. But essentially, what SQL does is kind of like I guess you could say it's like a database system, or basically it logs certain attributes about everything. So sometimes you have something like a unique key, or like a unique ID. So that unique ID is how you identify something. So if you log into a website, you have a unique ID to you that logs to that, and everything that's tied to it. So you have your email address, your passwords, all that stuff. That's, in a nutshell, what SQL does, okay? It's like, think of it like a coding journal, I guess, if you may. So that's just what happens. So basically, every time an action is taken, it'll be logged to whatever the server, the database is. And that's where we are now with this stuff. So, you glad you learned something new today? Even if you don't like this video, you learned something new. Anyways, so we keep going here. And so, allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly, these are some of the moderators' emails. Now, of course, naturally, I got these from a different video, but they're all blacked out for good reason. We don't want to be, doing anything to people. Don't be doxing. But as you can see here, a lot of people have at gmail.com, at Yandex, and luckily there was one person who was smart enough to put at 4chan.org, and that was a janitor. So as you can see here, a lot of people on an outdated system, which happens all the time, had their passwords and stuff and their emails tied to like personal accounts. So in the case of a data breach, in this case, or a hack, guess what happens here? You have a bunch of people who, are basically in the middle of a personal stuff gets out. And so the general consensus, at least when you're online, is that if you're going to even have a password, like an email, especially for an image board website, you got to use something that's very throwaway. Like, you don't use your personal email for anything like that. Now, I personally don't use image boards because it's not really for me. But the odd time if I need to find something from 4chan, I don't even post on it. So that's that. But yeah, so they even have like 4chan emails. So you have at 4chan.org. So that person's most likely okay. But all these Gmails and Proton mails and all this stuff that is there, not exactly optimal. And there was even some information going around when I was even researching for this video, where it was talking about there was some .gov stuff and other stuff, but from what I'd seen and from what I researched for this video, I did not find a single thing about .gov. So take it as you will. And now, taking a look at the code itself, because I'm not here to break it down, but I just want to take a look at it. And you have here function valid equals action moderator equals blah blah blah. And just from looking at it, luckily they put comments in their code, thank God. But it just comes here and basically gets the access level for that user, and it just processes it normally. Now, from what I understand, at least making sure that I don't mess this part up, but I believe that this PHP code that they have was from not 2016, either 2016 or 2019, one or the other. I'm mixing my numbers up, but it's either from one of those, right? And so, like I said earlier, you basically have a 1600s key in a 21st century. Someone's gonna get it, which is basically what it was. And now, to get to the next part here, which is probably the only part that I can really confirm for you, is that if you look at here from Grape Ape, at least from what is, so here, and there's some Discord messages where it's like, obviously 4chan, there has been a hack, the site itself has been halted until we can determine the damage. It's likely that email addresses have been leaked, perhaps IPs as well. You'll need to hold on to those emails accounts in order for us to do a password reset once the site is back up, so don't delete them or anything. And the user puts, ironically, I believe that's actually a Soyjack meme. And they have, pensive face, hoping the damage isn't too bad. Shit's a little concerning. And so said, I used an active email when I applied because I was hammered. Sorry. No offense, but if you're using your active email, that's probably the stupidest decision you can make, especially on these image boards. Anyways, If you keep going as well, it says here, I think it is more possible, sorry, and more important to worry about what your email address is connected to. If you use that email address for LinkedIn or Facebook or GitHub or anything else, or whatever else, sorry, stay safe out there. You can set it up to use an authentication app without needing to give your phone number. That's what I did. Go to manage Google account, go to security, and then set up a passkey link, PLL from our Jenny applications. Okay, got it. Thank you guys. Pretty straightforward. So, as you can tell here, people didn't really manage their accounts the best from what I'm seeing here. And I do want to preface this as well, even from the code that we actually looked at, I would take it with a grain of salt regardless, because even though it gives you an idea how it looks like, I cannot fully confirm exactly if that was the code and whatnot, which is kind of ironic because, you know, when it comes to like, you know, misinformation and stuff, you see 4chan, you know, some people go there to check it out, but, you know, when it goes down, it goes down hard. Anyways, I always wanted to mention that if you actually thought that 4chan, which has been around since 2000 and 2003, was going to be down like permanently after a hack, nah, it wasn't gonna happen. Because you have to understand that even with all these massive data breaches and all these hacks and stuff, it happens not often enough, but you can also mitigate as much as possible. That's why when you shut down servers, as soon as you see a hack, that kind of halts a lot of operations, so stuff doesn't get out even more. Now, of course, damage is done, and whoever actually saw these email addresses, you know, God forbid, you know, people start going up and doxing and all that stuff, but either way, you take a look at it and you're just like, you know, stuff like this happens, but there's also a lot of other, you know, aspects you can take a look at as well. Now, if we keep looking at this at another perspective, this is basically for me a cautionary tale to all of you, and that yeah, be careful what you use your email for, guys. You know, I mean, it's almost amazing that like practice, like, you know, use different emails for different stuff is still not like commonplace, just because, you know, some people, it's a comfort. You'll use the same password, the same email for every single operation because it's convenient. But when something like this happens, could you imagine, like, it gets out, Jerry from accounting was a 4chan Jenny on his spare time. The horror. But either way, like, you don't want people tying you to other operations, which is basically what I'm trying to get at. So, anyways, regardless of all that, yeah, I mean, it was a big event. I mean, I know some people hate 4chan, some people don't like these kind of message boards, and they get toxic and yada yada. But either way, 4chan is kind of like, like, it's almost like a relic of the old internet, and this was a bit before my time anyway. But like, the old internet wasn't like, you know, opening up Twitter and being like, I don't like this movie is bad, or I don't like this because it is woke, or I don't know, men are trash or women are trash, blah blah blah. Before, and you'd be in, you know, your own little community posting on message boards, and that's really what 4chan is. And the fact that it's stood the test of time kind of tells you, like, you know, there's still a place for these. There's still room for these kind of stuff, because, you know, some people get their information from 4chan, so people look for exclusive stuff on 4chan. Sometimes there's leaks on 4chan, you know, all that fun stuff. And compare that to somewhere like maybe like Reddit or something, where it's a bit more, well, it's moderated, but, you know, probably moderated a bit more hands-on, if you may, compared to maybe 4chan or stuff is logged on 4chan or whatever. But anyways, regardless of all that, I'm just saying that if you thought 4chan was going to go down in this aspect, I think that's a bit naive, just me personally. But it was down for quite some time, which I'm assuming that they probably had to go through everything and, you know, not make sure not a single crack was out. But also, they probably had to realize that, yeah, I should probably upgrade our code. And let me tell you something, okay? At least from what I understand, okay? A lot of places don't update their stuff that often, okay? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, when it comes to like the arms race of hackers and security, you have to be updating at all times. You know what I mean? That's why governments don't let you have like particular phones with you. You can't use your government phone for certain apps, which totally makes sense. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that some like military phones also don't even have like a camera. So yeah, gotta take the measures, guys. But either way, yeah, so long story short, 4chan is back and it's here to stay. So anyways, I thought it was just interesting to look at it, just because, you know, we haven't really delved into this kind of topic in a little bit. So, you know, I wanted to take a look at 4chan one more time and look at the disaster that it was. And yeah, let's keep the soy jacks out of our computers, shall we? Anyways, that's it for today. So, you know, If you want to go post on 4chan, go for it. But if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Follow my social down in the description below. But that's it for today. Nothing else. Ciao, ciao.